Welcome to another edition of Maximum Life with yours truly, Michael Norman. It's a joy and a pleasure to be with you. In this video, we're going to get down to the brass tacks of what it's going to take to ensure that your 2026 does not, and I repeat, does not look like a repeat of 2025. The reason that's going to be is because I'm going to show you how you can change in subtle ways. You can make microscopic changes and moves that will give maximum momentum. It's going to give you maximum momentum. I just screwed that up, but you get the point. You're going to get maximum momentum and hurl and literally transform your life into a place where you really want to be. Now, from the onset, I want to let you know this is a new broadcast. It's a new video. It's a new channel here on YouTube. And as such, as everyone does here on YouTube, I want to implore upon you to make sure that you subscribe and click the like button so that you do not miss not a single video. Why? Because this is an outreach ministry of Michael Norman Ministries. And as such, our desire is to ensure that you discover your purpose and unlock your potential so that you can live life at the highest level, so that you can have the maximum life that God desires for you to have. Obviously, there is some biblical undertones, but all of what I'm teaching is practical. It's not religious, it's practical, and it's designed to help you to propel yourself into the life you desire to have, okay? That being said, I want to start today's video with this testimony of sorts about my personal life. Now, many of you that watch me for any length of time, you know about about a year ago, I would say about a year and a half ago, maybe a little less than a year and a half ago, I suffered a heart attack, and as such required a quadruple, get that, quadruple heart bypass surgery just about a year and a half ago, a little bit under that. But here's what I discovered. That was not just an all of a sudden, out of nowhere, some spur of the moment sort of thing that happened. It literally happened over a period of time. Little small hints there, here, little small hints there that went unnoticed, unchecked, unconcerned on my on my behalf. And of course, ultimately I paid the price. But here's what I learned. I learned that life, the same way the body declines, is the same way that life declines for most people. And I would say for everybody, because again, it does not happen overnight. It happens over a series of events and times that we just allowed to either exist or to ignore. But I've discovered this, that there's a way that, again, that if you can make just small, see, these are the small foxes that destroys the vine. I had those issues with, a light palpitation here, but I just need to work out a little bit harder because I was already running. I was already playing basketball every morning, that sort of thing. But small things, little things that I allowed to just tag along and didn't really take it seriously. But at some point, those small little foxes turned into a quadruple bypass surgery. So it taught me a very, very important principle I want to pass on to you. Take it for what it's worth. That the same way life breaks down is the same way that life builds back up again. The same way life breaks down is the same way life builds back up again. Because think of it, if it's the small foxes that destroys the vine, then you can take that same principle in reverse and say it's the small things that's going to yield massive results. See, oftentimes what happens is we think in terms of, explosive, gargantuan, grandiose things, and then we kind of ignore the small, seemingly insignificant things and not realize it's those small things that ultimately adds up to bigger things that ultimately impacts our lives. And so I understood it's not an explosion, it's not in increments, not giant steps, but in small daily decisions, things that we just make every day. And sometimes we do it unawares because it becomes a norm for us. And so if you're going to have a spectacular 2026 that absolutely outshines 2025 in any year before, you're going to have to recognize that I cannot be the same person that I was in 2025. I have to be before I can become. And oftentimes what people do is they go out and again, it's the American way. It's all or nothing, no guts, no glory. Overnight success. That's what we revel in, particularly in this Western culture. We idolize and deify those who seemingly came up overnight. And then we aspire that one day it can happen to me, that somehow I'm going to be an overnight success, not realizing, as is the case for those who seemingly came up overnight, it took small incremental steps. Sure, you may have just discovered them, but if you ask them, they'll tell you about the struggles. They'll tell you about the disappointments. They'll tell you how they had to be resilient, had to continue when they felt like giving up, when it looked like everything was falling apart, nothing was happening, no activity, no traction anywhere, and yet they persist in moving forward. Maybe not fast, not at lightning speed, but nevertheless, small incremental steps. So I wrote down some notes here I'm going to share with you that I believe will be a huge blessing to you. And you can take notes or just play this video again. But I would ask you once again, click the like button if this speaks to you. Watch this. So I said to you, the same way that life breaks down is the same way that you can build life back up. Life doesn't break down overnight. It takes time and a series of small things that leads to big things. That's what breaks life down for us. But in reverse is the same truth, that you can build life back up with small incremental steps that leads to huge momentum. So most people don't fail because they dream too small. They fail because they try to move too big, too fast, and get overwhelmed and pressured. So this is why, if you're like me, I'm kind of like that old story about the old bull and the young bull. I'm the young bull. I want to go and get it. I want it now. Let's go take it all. Let's grab everything. And the old bull says, let's take our time and get everything. See, because as a young, you don't really consider all of the things that are going to happen in the process of trying to get everything. And when you're trying to get everything all at the same time, you ultimately end up getting nothing. And then what happens is we get discouraged about it. We're like, I did everything right. I had the right momentum. I had the motivation. I had drive. I had ambition. And I work hard, not to mention, but listen, hard work is good. But if you're working hard at the wrong things, well, you're not going to get your desired results. So now it becomes an issue of intentionality. I do the things that I do with intentionality. I see in my mind's eye what it is I desire to become. And then I become that in my mind before I become that in my actions. There's an old saying that you must be before you become. If you're going to become, you must be that first, because if you try to become what you're not only superficial and artificial, you will soon lose focus, lose drive, and lose ambition. So again, here we go again. We're talking about small. First of all, identify what it is you desire to accomplish and achieve in this new year. You gotta have a destination. Don't just take off running and not know where you're running to. So have some sort of destination in mind, some sort of destiny that you recognize. Start a business, lose weight, whatever. A lot of times people say, I'm going to lose 30 pounds, and they get on that, the new, and the gyms, they love it because the new year is the greatest time. That's probably when they make the most money, because everyone has this New Year's resolution that I'm going to lose weight. And as such, they're going to help you do that by lowering the price of admission to the gym. And then, if you join today, you get 30% off of the first month, the first 30 days. And everybody jumps on and they try to lose 30 pounds. In doing so, what happens is you overload the senses. And I'm talking about your mind. You overload your brain to the extent that you're trying to lose 30 pounds without giving any regard to just losing 1 pound. How about we celebrate the ability to lose 1 pound and then move on to the next? But if you're constantly looking at 30, now you got to have a goal, of course, obviously, but recognize the goal has to be, what is it called? When you reverse engineer, you start with the end in mind, and then you reverse engineer to discover what is it going to take for me to achieve that end in a particular set of time. What is it going to take for me to achieve the thing that I desire by a certain period in time? So then you reverse engineer what you see as far as your destination and your destiny, reverse it, and then you start with day one and start doing the micro steps. A little here, a little there. Be committed to doing it. Don't overload the brain with I'm going out today to lose 30 pounds today. You're not going to do that. No one's going to do that. The only person that can possibly do that is probably no longer with us. So why not start with just saying, I'm going to lose a pound every month for the next 30 months. Celebrate. Maybe you can do probably more than that, of course, but I'm saying the emphasis is on doing small things, doing the micro things that leads to greater things. Let me show you something else I've got here. So again, people don't try to fail. People don't fail because they try to move too big. They fail. Get this now. I got to get it. They fail because they try to move too big, too fast, and get overwhelmed, pressured, and intimidated by the destiny rather than the daily steps that are required to get you to your destiny. Don't allow your destiny to become the undoing of you. Don't get so intimidated by the goal that you give up without even trying. Did you notice that? I'm going to get back to my notes here in a second, but remember, there's a story in the Bible about a guy by the name of David. David, you know the story, David and Goliath, right? You know the whole story. Goliath is this behemoth of a man, and David, well, he's just this little shepherd boy. He's meek and mild and lowly. And of course, as the story goes, he literally comes against Goliath, this behemoth of a giant with just 5 smooth stones. It only took one stone to take down one giant. Now, it's a great story, and it reads it. I mean, it's made for movies, right? How David comes, he stands at the field of battle, and there's Goliath on one side, standing tall, masculine, heroic. He's this giant of a behemoth, some say 7 or 8 feet tall. And on the other side, if it's WWE, they introduce you as this gigantic giant warrior of historic proportion. And here's David. He's this little guy on the other side. But the story ends with David killing Goliath. How does he do it? He doesn't do it by going to the gym, lifting weights, running. He doesn't do it and saying, I'm gonna become as tall as Goliath. I'm gonna be as big as Goliath. I'm gonna eat as much as I can so I can get bigger, taller, faster, stronger. David realized something. He said, I don't have to be as big as he is. All I need is something as small as a stone. And if I can point that stone in the right direction, I'll win the fight. And that's exactly what happened. David simply needed one sling. He had 5, but he only had 5 stones. But he only needed one. And that one small stone yielded the greatest victory of their time. So much so, it gave David access to the king, and ultimately he himself became king. So you see, in that story, it says, or at least it's telling me, that it's not the big, gigantic things that you do that gets you the victory. It's the small things. Take inventory of the small, little things, the things that you can do without stress, without anxiety, without overtaxing your brain and your mind. Because your brain, this is what most people don't appreciate. Scientists have discovered through neurology that your brain is wired for protection, and it will protect you from anything that seems detrimental to you, even if it's going to the gym to work out. If it's too much for your brain, it's going to tell you everything you need to hear to try to keep you and discourage you from going into the gym. I'm too tired, or that's too much work, or the gym is too far away, or it's too cold in the gym. Oh, I wish I had this. Oh, they don't have this, and it goes on and on and on and on, because your brain is trying to maintain its level of comfort. Because the brain, this is the hidden secret. The brain is your actual enemy. It's not the gym. It's not the working out. It's not the 5K. It's how your mind is wired to approach those things. And so that's why I say, do not, and I repeat, do not go out and start trying to behave differently than you did in 2025. Do not go out and try to behave in 2026 differently than you, do not try to change your behavior from the way you behaved in 25 in 2026. Why do I say that? Because change doesn't take place by just mere activity. Change starts in the mind. And as a man thinketh in his mind, so is he. So your body will do what your mind is instructing it to do. So it's not an issue of changing from without, it's about changing from within. I remember an old song, a group they used to sing, they said, free your mind and the rest will follow. Shout out to In Vogue. Free your mind and the rest will follow. Everything else will begin to fall in place. But if you try to do it from the outside in, you're going to be met with frustration. Your brain is going to wonder, what in the world are you trying to do? You go out day one trying to run a 5K and you've never run 5 miles, and you've never run 500 yards. You've never ran 5 yards itself. So start with a smaller thing. Every great athlete knows to start small and build up. Start right where you are with small victory. It might be a great victory and a small one, but a great one for you, simply to just get up at the same time every morning. Just get up. Whether you go to the gym or not. Now, this is for the very, 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 very first beginners, okay? This is for beginners. But the principle applies to everyone. Maybe getting up is not an issue for you. Maybe going to the gym is not an issue for you. But maybe you're trying to lift too much too soon. That's how you're tearing your muscles, tendons get affected and that sort of thing. So you start light and you build from there. And the more you continue and consistently apply that principle of doing, some would say, the least, doing the least, and with the intent of building up from there. And once you've mastered that little, you move to the next, because small micro moves will lead to massive momentum. All right, let me give you one more. So most people, why most people don't fail, they quit. It's because, number one, most people in this, first of all, you have to do away with this sense of laziness. That we have this attitude that if in America we like great and grandiose, the bigger the better, big, beautiful, everything. Supersize me. But if you're going to make lasting and substantial change in your life, it starts with the small things. So when you're here's one of my notes. Most people don't quit because they lack discipline. They quit because they try to transform their lives faster than their nervous system could tolerate. And when your nervous system feels unsafe, it doesn't care how good your vision is. It will shut you down, and that is not rebellion, that's biology. So overwhelm is not a moral failure, it's a neurological response. Your brain, our brain, is wired to protect you from threat, not propel you towards destiny. And when change feels too big, too fast, too heavy, your brain interprets it as danger. So instead of progressing, you procrastinate. You avoid, you sabotage, you numb, you quit. Not because you're broken, but because your system is overwhelmed. And most of us were taught the wrong formula. The wrong formula. Here's what I wrote here. And this definitely applies for Americans. We subscribe to the idea, go big or go home. Burn the ship. Burn the bridge. You ever heard anyone say burn bridge? When you're progressing towards your destiny, burn the bridge because it prevents you from turning back to your old ways. That's how we do. Burn the bridge, burn the ship. All or nothing. Total overhaul. No guts, no glory. But that's not how life works. God has designed us as seeds. And as such, a seed doesn't become a plant immediately. A seed has to, number one, be buried in the soil. Now, if you will allow me, let me use these next few minutes before I close out to kind of describe this metaphor. So, a seed can be an ambition, a desire, but it has to have a place to be buried. Like any other seed, it has to be buried in soil. Now, here's the thing about the soil. The soil doesn't care what kind of seed it is. It doesn't care if it's an apple seed, watermelon seed, a cactus, a rose. It does not care. It can be any kind of seed. The soil will do what the soil does. And given enough time and water and enough care, it's going to give you a harvest, right? So you with me so far? So if that's true in nature, then it's true in life. Our brain is like the soil of the earth. And just like the soil of the earth, whatever you put into it is what is going to give back to you. So if you're sowing seeds of doubt and unbelief and fear, intimidation, then you're going to experience fear, doubt, and intimidation. Because your brain has no allegiance to you. Even though it's in your head and you would think it's your brain, it should have some level of allegiance with you, which it does to the extent that it only wants what's pleasurable, which means if it's not fun, your brain will immediately reject it. That's why most people don't work out. That's why most people can't stay the course, because it takes a certain level of discipline and consistency, doing it consistently. And that's why people tell you, if ever you find a job that you love, you'll never work another day in your life. Why? Because your brain will agree with you. I love this. I love doing this. So it's no challenge for me to get up out of bed and do it because it's something that you already love to do. That's the science behind it. And wonderful if you can find what it is that you love that much that your brain doesn't have to make all sorts of adjustments to accommodate that. But in general, as the seed that plants in the ground, so is the seed that plants in the soil of your mind. You have to give it time. You have to water it. And then you have to, again, once again, protect it from, you gotta build a fence around it to make sure that nothing happens to it. Nobody comes near it. No animals, no threats. You keep those things at bay while that seed is germinating and turning into a harvest that you desire. And God has made all of us. This is his will and his word. He's made us that we might prosper. He created us in his image and in his likeness. In his image and in his likeness. What does his image and his likeness do? Well, his image, one of the things about is his essence, what he is, what he does. Number one thing that he does, apparently, is he creates. He creates stuff. That's one of the first things we see about God. Whether you believe in the Bible, Quran, or whatever, everyone believes that God creates. So that's part of what we are designed to do, to create, to produce, to perform. Not so that we can dominate it, but so that we can be responsible for it. You have a gift, and God would never put a demand on you where he's not made a deposit. He would never make a demand where he's never made a deposit. And if there's a demand on your life, then there's a deposit that accommodates the demand. Nobody will ever go to an ATM machine and demand money out of that ATM machine, never having put any money in it. But when you've got money in the bank, you can walk up to that ATM machine with assurance that when I put a demand on that ATM machine, I am going to get the thing that I'm demanding from it. And your life is the same way. If God puts a demand on you, it's because he's already made a deposit in you. Okay, I got one more thing I'm going to share with you before we end the video. And by the way, if you're enjoying what you're hearing so far, click the like button, please. It helps, again, with the algorithms of the YouTube channel here. And of course, helps build the audience and makes it easier for others to find us as well. Okay. All right, let's see. I'm going through my notes here because I actually have a book that I'm working on, and these are some of the highlights from the book. So here's one. The real reason change feels hard. The real reason change feels hard. Let me say something that will free you up here. You're not struggling because you're weak. You're struggling because your brain is loyal to the familiar, not to the future. Get that? You're struggling because your brain is loyal to the familiar, not to the future. Your brain prefers predictability over possibilities. That's why toxic patterns feels comfortable. That's why unhealthy relationships feels familiar. That's why self-sabotage feels normal. And that's why staying stuck feels safer than stepping forward. So your nervous system asks one question. Is this known or unknown? If not, is this healthy or unhealthy? It doesn't ask rather if it's healthy or unhealthy. It's just if it's known or unknown. Because again, the way our brain is designed, it's designed to levitate to that which is familiar, which is comfortable. This is neurologically proven. So that's why I say it starts here first before it ever starts outside of you. It starts inside of you. So again, once your brain thinks it's unfamiliar, it's uncomfortable, then your brain is going to say, nope, not today. Not I. Not I. So it's too risky. I want to stay comfortable. I want to stay in the area of familiarity. And all of that working out stuff and planning and pursuing things that if that means you got to get up off the couch, you got to stop eating candy, cookies, and potato chips all day, every day. The brain's just going to be like, I'm tapping out. That's when you're going to have to take control over your own brain. It says, as to the degree that you, in many cases, you trick yourself into saying, I actually like working out. I actually like eating salads. They taste great. And eventually what happens is it goes from your conscious down into your subconscious, and that's where the real you resides. And once you change there, everything outside of you is going to follow suit. All right? Well, that's all I have time for this video, but I trust if you've heard something that makes sense to you, you've enjoyed it, click the like button, also the subscribe button and the notification button. That way you're in the loop and you know what's going on. And as I said at the top of the broadcast or this video, this is an outreach ministry of Michael Norman Ministries. And if it makes sense to you and if it's a blessing to you, consider being a blessing to the ministry. There's information in the description by going to michaelnormanministries.com, michaelnormanministries.com, and be a partner, become a partner with me as we're helping people, again, discover their purpose and unlock their potential so that they can live their life at the highest level. We want you to be one of them, okay? All right, until the next video, again, share it. It's all right if you would share. This is absolutely free information, so share it with as many people as you can, and then tell them where you got it from so they can subscribe, join, listen, click, like, you know the routine. Until the next time we meet, okay? All right, thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time right here on Maximum Life with yours truly, Michael Norman. We'll see you next time. Blessings.